Senator John Kennedy, Democratic candidate for the presidency. We're visiting with Mr. and Mrs. MacNamara in Newport, Kentucky. Mr. MacNamara is 67 or 68 years old. He's now retired, living on Social Security. Perhaps you could tell what's happened to you, Mr. MacNamara.
Well, I broke my hip the 6th of February. I've been just getting around recently. It cost me about a little over $600. The doctor bill alone was a little over $235 to be exactly.
How long would it be before you're back in shape now? You don't have to visit the doctor?
Well, I don't have to visit.
You just have the cane now?
I just have a cane.
What I think is the serious problem for Mr. MacNamara and Mrs. MacNamara is he's retired, he's living on Social Security, and then because he had an accident, he fell off a ladder in the basement of his house, broke his hip, he incurred a debt of over $600 to pay for his medical bills. There's no legislation now in the books which would have assisted Mr. MacNamara. The average Social Security check is only around $78 a month, and whatever savings they may have had would have to be spent to pay for his bills. Under the program which I'm advocating and which I hope the next Congress will pass, and we came close to passing it in the last session, Mr. MacNamara and Mrs. MacNamara, who are under Social Security, would receive assistance from the Social Security Fund in paying for their medical bills. They would receive compensation for their hospitalization, for their x-rays, for their medication, for their doctor's bills. And that would have meant that under this insurance system, which has worked so well for 25 years, Mr. MacNamara would have been protected. This, I believe, is the most orderly and responsible way to finance a medical program for our older citizens. It provides that they shall contribute during their working years. It would add about 1/4% to the Social Security tax. It would amount to less than 3 cents a day for each person on Social Security during their working years. But it does mean that when they are retired, when their income is dropped, when they're in a difficult period, if they do get sick, or if Mrs. MacNamara had been sick for a long period of time, they would have assistance and help. Otherwise, their savings may go and they may be forced to turn to relief. I believe this is the way to do it. The Social Security system has worked well for 25 years. It provides sound financing, and it would provide protection for men and women like Mr. and Mrs. MacNamara, who are now retired already under the Social Security system. For those who are not under Social Security, we provide another program which will be of help to them. And I believe that this is the American way. Pay as you go, everyone contributes, but it does provide protection for one of our most vital needs. Don't you feel that if the Social Security system had funds which would be available to you, that it would have been great help and saved you a good deal of money?
No doubt about that. There is no doubt about it all. In my mind, that if the Social Security can handle it, if they will handle it, and with very little cost in my way of thinking.
Well, it would amount to less than 3 cents a day each individual during your working years. Now that amounts to less than $1 a month, which would be about $9 or $10 a year for each person, which would ensure you that when you're retired, 62 if you're a woman, 65 if you're a man, that you would get help. And if you had funds stored away, you wouldn't have to exhaust those funds. Instead, you would have paid your own funds in and received help. And I must say that and housing, decent food and shelter, and care for the medical bills, I believe can make your older period a much more satisfactory one. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. MacNamara. I think your experience tells more than any words of how important it would be.
This is an opportunity of a lifetime.
The choice for medical aid to the elderly is clear. The Republican pauper's oath or Senator Kennedy's plan through Social Security. Choose the Democratic way. John Kennedy for President. Presented by Citizens for Kennedy.